The Tomah Volunteer Fire Department invites you to share 100 years of memories, to look over the latest in firefighting equipment, and some of the old units that have served the city of Tomah during the past 100 years. Tomah Fire Chief Pat Giesler looks over some of the old-time equipment with Assistant Chief Augie Zimmerman. And with volunteer fireman Dwayne Price. Out of the new North Side Fire Station comes the Seagrave Pumper, a unit that has served the city well for many, many years. The Tomah Volunteer Fire Department's first rescue squad unit. The big new pumper that carries hundreds and hundreds of gallons of water to fires within the city. The downtown fire station that has served the Tomah volunteers and the city of Tomah for many years. The doors swing open to show the latest firefighting equipment available. One of the finest pumper units available today. The new aerial ladder equipment, the telesquirt. Backs into the fire station, ready for the next call. Fire Chief Pat Giesler invites his men to take a run on an old truck and look back through the years through the eyes of firemen past and firemen present. And if the ghost of one of Tomah's original hook and ladder company could be with us on the back of the old Buffalo today, he'd be able to share with us 100 years of fires and fire protection by members of the Tomah Volunteers. As Augie Zimmerman takes the old Buffalo down Arthur Street from the North Side Fire Station and then down Superior Avenue, let's look at the city and its fires and its firemen. The Tomah Volunteers started in 1871. When citizens of the village of Tomah were frightened by news that the city of Chicago was burning to the ground according to the first telegraph call for help, and the residents of Tomah hurriedly authorized the formation of a volunteer fire brigade numbering 50 or more men and the purchase of Tomah's first fire wagon. On that day, a tradition was born for the city of Tomah. Down the Miracle Mile now, following that tradition of Tomah volunteer firemen and looking at some of the old fires and civic celebrations in which the Tomah volunteers have taken part. 100 years of memories. Tomah volunteer firemen on parade. The day the city garage burned in downtown Tomah. The day of the armistice, World War I was over. The sign on the man's chest says, "To hell with the Kaiser." And if you could look back through the eyes of the old Buffalo fire truck, you could see the sparks of 100 fires and smell the smoke as the Tomah High School burned with a high wind whipping the flames on a cold night in 1943. Superintendent of Schools E.J. McKean
Someone told me that the schoolhouse was on fire. Well, I went right to the schoolhouse, and I didn't see any evidence of fire. But as I unlocked the door and to go into the schoolhouse, well, it was such a suction that I just turned around and came out.
And as you continued down Superior Avenue, you could remember the fires that burned houses in the city, those that were destroyed and those that were saved. And as the shiny old truck looks down Superior and the old firemen reminisce, you could hear them telling about the fires, the residences of the city of Tomah. Down Superior Avenue, the Miracle Mile. The old firemen reminisce. Off to the right, the old fire bell that cracked with the exuberance of the ringing on Armistice Day, 1918. Or the old fireman, as he reminisced, might remember the fire call where there was no fire. Gasoline spilled from the large tanks. Had it escaped, it could have threatened a whole city block. Or the fireman might reminisce about the fire call where the fire came to them. A huge locomotive moved into the city of Tomah on fire, but it had radioed ahead, and the volunteer firemen were waiting for the fire. The old fireman might remember the time John Red Rarick flew into Tomah as part of a nationwide campaign to bury the wires and save the flyers. And as he left town, the wires he had come to bury caught the landing gear of the plane, and a friend who was riding with him was buried instead. Or he might remember the quick run over Jackson Pass to the city of Sparta to assist the Sparta volunteer firemen in fighting the Sydney Hotel fire. The old fireman filled with reminiscences, and he might remember also the days spent working with the young people of the community, teaching them about the fire equipment and the need for firemen. Or he might be explaining the many hours of first aid training that the volunteer firemen undergo, resuscitation training, for the next call could be a heart attack, a drowning, or electrical shock. But it wasn't all work. For the volunteer firemen and their annual picnic, where the firemen and their families gathered for a day of fun. Down Superior Avenue, the old firemen might go. And on October 9th and 10th, 1971, when the fire sirens sounded on Superior Avenue, it wasn't a fire, but a fireman's celebration. Yes, the fireman's celebration as Tomah volunteers completed their first 100 years of service. A parade, complete with old fire trucks, bands, and marching units, moved out behind the old fire rigs. The Color Guard led the way down Superior Avenue, celebrating 100 years of firefighting in Tomah. Tomah Mayor and Mrs. C.E. Pete Bean leading the parade. Followed by the Tomah Senior High Marching Band. Marching band, followed by the old hand-drawn units, the pumpers of long ago. And what would a parade be without the clowns for the kids? Winnebago Indians from the west central Wisconsin area entertained the crowds along the 100th anniversary parade route with their dances. vehicles came in a variety of sizes, including the Shriners and their miniature cars. A centennial parade wouldn't be complete without a drum and bugle corps. And bringing back memories for many an old-time firefighter, some of the old-time firefighting units. Volunteers from throughout the central Wisconsin area joined the Tomah Volunteers in celebrating their centennial. The Oakdale Volunteer Fire Department on hand with their big pumper. Following the drum and bugle corps, the old oxen, many an old-timer along the parade route, could remember using them in a field rather than in the parade. The Department of Natural Resources firefighting units, on hand as always to assist the Tomah Volunteers, as the Tomah Volunteers assist the DNR. The Adams Friendship Cadet Band marching in review. Many an old-timer remembers watching the fire barn as the horses came out pulling one of the old-time horse-drawn fire rigs. The old horse-drawn pumper passes in review. The Fireman's Ball. The Tomah Volunteers reminding everyone the celebration continues after the parade. The WTMB Music Band on hand for a live broadcast and review. Hillsboro Volunteer Firemen supporting the Tomah Volunteers in their centennial. There's one of the originals, the old hand-drawn pumper unit. All the bands that came down the street weren't marching, however, some preferred to ride. The Zor Shrine Oriental Band. And a parade wouldn't be complete without the Balloon Man. Or the sounds of fire sirens in the background. Or the hand-drawn pumper rig as it comes running down the street with the Nakusa Fire Department on the ball. The West Salem Volunteers participating in the parade, the 4-H clubs of the area. The Warrior Drum and Bugle Corps. military firefighting equipment also playing a part in the Tomah Volunteer Centennial Parade. From Luther High, Unalaska, the Luther High Marching Band with Frank Italiano, director. Another of the many horse-drawn units, the Saddle Clubs of West Central Wisconsin participating. Another marching band that didn't quite march in the parade, but had a pleasant ride. And another of the antique fire rigs from Wisconsin helping the Tomah Volunteers celebrate their first 100 years of service to the community. Tip of the hat to the reviewing stand as the volunteers continue on their way. The Northern Colony Drum and Bugle Corps, offering opportunity for the handicapped. Firefighters from throughout the state of Wisconsin joining the Tomah Volunteers in celebration of their centennial. The Camp Douglas Volunteer Firemen. Putting out the fire on the way. The Tomah Junior High Band marching in review before the judges stand in front of Tomah City Hall. The Drum and Bugle Corps from La Crosse. Steel of Tomah, and the old Model Ts, and the other antique cars in the parade. The Scotch Highlanders. Another of the old-time fire rigs being pulled through the Straits of Tomah. From Elroy Kendall Wilton, the junior high band. The Cub Scouts of the Tomah area. And then our fire truck guide takes us back to the garage, ready to start another 100 years of service to the community, another 100 years of challenges, another 100 years of new equipment, new faces, to do battle with an old enemy, fire. These 30 minutes of memories are dedicated to the Tomah volunteer firemen, past and present.